Octopodes.
Octopodes?
Octopodes nuts. That's how you can remember it.
The episode's over. Meg, you won. Hello.
Welcome back
To Whyte Noise. I'm so excited for today's topic. And so excited to meet our fabulous guest, Meg Minlin.
Welcome, Meg.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
You're a molecular biologist.
I'm a molecular biologist, and I study octopuses.
RNA did I get that right? Is like one of your focal points, yeah?
What's
Yeah.
RNA?
I specifically study RNA. Okay. So, within your body, there's like a way that everything gets made. You start off with your DNA, which I kind of like to think of as the cookbook. And then you need to get to the proteins, which I like to think of as your finished meal. And so your RNA is going to be the step in between. And so I like to think of it as the little recipes. So I study those little recipes and how octopuses make changes to those little recipes in order to change the finished meal or their proteins.
And they must be fascinating for that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the reason it's so fascinating is because, we edit our RNA. Lots of animals edit their RNA. But octopuses do it, upwards of, 600,000 sites, whereas we only have, 1,000. So, we only do it a little bit. And they do it a lot of bit.
I am so excited for this. So one of my other research items in terms of reading about you and your background and what you do and why you're cool, one of the key highlights was that you are so good at taking complex things and explaining them in a way that makes sense and allow you take people along with you. You just did that whole RNA thing. That was beautiful.
Yeah, so my master's is on RNA editing. So I study how ocean acidification affects that process and what proteins octopuses are changing in response. And sort of the idea is that whatever proteins they're changing in response will help them acclimate to increased acidification. So the water's getting more and more acidic.
And they're adapting to it. Because why not? They're the smartest things.
They are. I mean, my whole thing is in regards with climate change. And so ultimately, climate change doesn't do them very well. They don't do well in hot temperature. They don't do well in high acidity. But they show some resilience to specifically acidification. So they can sort of they'll see a spike in their immune response and their stress levels. But then over time, it goes back down to normal. So they can sort of just acclimate to new temperatures and new acidity. And so I study, well, if they can do that, maybe it's because they're editing their RNA. And maybe we can figure out which proteins help best do that for them.
Is there a link between this kind of RNA behavior and implications for humans or adaptation for humans?
Yeah, there really is. Have you ever heard of CRISPR-Cas9?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So CRISPR-Cas9 is a way to edit your DNA.
Oh,
So
I
it
believe that you were saying a person's name. I was like, Crispr-Cas9? I've never heard of Chris.
CRISPR-Cas9.
But I'm sure he's
You
lovely.
know, if it was a person, that is kind of a slay name. CRISPR-Cas9. You would spell it Cas and then spell out 9. That could be a rapper's name.
Oh my God, CRISPR-Cas9, look out.
So CRISPR-Cas9 is a way to edit DNA. And we use this for a lot of sort of medical applications and gene therapies. And so RNA editing instead is another type of gene therapy that people have been looking into, where instead of making changes to your DNA that are permanent, but could, have benefit with disease and illness and all sort of genetic conditions, you can edit your RNA because it's not permanent. Those changes don't stick, they don't stick around. And so one of those applications is actually non-addictive alternatives to opiates. So a lab that primarily studies RNA editing in the US is one of the labs that is working on non-addictive alternatives to opiates using RNA editing in octopuses.
So how did you get into octopuses and cephalopods in the first place? What do you remember what drew you to them?
Yeah. So I have a very specific memory of 2006 on YouTube, and there was a documentary that was Richard Hammond's Miracle of Nature. And it was where a cuttlefish camouflage itself perfectly to unnatural patterns. So if you ever seen a cuttlefish in a little checkerboard pattern and it matches, That's like all the way back from this documentary from forever ago. And I was like 7 at the time and saw that. And I was like, say less. This is so freaking cool. Well, like I cannot see anything cooler than this right now. But at the time, like I didn't go into science until like literally my senior year of high school. I thought I was going to be an artist full time. I did like concert photography. I was making album art covers. I was doing graphic design, and I just got burnt out. I was doing art as like a career since I was a child. I was like making money off of my art, and I hated it at the end of my senior year of high school. And so I was like, well, I really like the ocean and I really like, octopuses and cephalopods. And I was really into photography. And so I was like, I'm just going to go make ocean documentaries. And so I went and didn't tell anybody that I was applying to marine biology programs instead of art programs. And I chose to go to UC Santa Cruz and get my marine biology degree. And then I was in my freshman year writing class and we had to write a research paper. And I chose to write it about how climate change would affect octopuses. And in that, I found out about RNA editing. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, I don't understand anything about molecular biology. I don't know what's going on, but I know that this is cool and I want to know more about it. And so then I switched my majors. I got into molecular biology. I joined an RNA lab and I just was like, I'm going to do this.
That's incredible.
Wow.
It was really crazy.
Awesome.
I kind of had like a life-changing mental breakdown at one point because I was like, if I'm not going to be a marine biologist, like, what am I going to do? And then it was like, no, you're fine. Like, chill out. Like, I just thought like my whole life was like changing, and I was like, no, you're literally doing like the same thing. Just chill. And it was great. And I don't regret any of it.
That also explains the beautiful illustrations that you make. So I was going to ask you, but you just told me like the incredible intersection that you have with marine biology, molecular biology, and the beautiful illustrations. Yeah,
I come to think of that as the reason why I'm good at explaining complex topics in easy to understand ways, because I was, an art kid who got thrown into a science program and didn't really understand any of it. And so I had to teach myself, and I taught myself mostly like through using art. And I would teach my friend groups. Like when we go study, I would be the one at the whiteboard drawing things out because I needed to draw it out. And then I would teach it to them because I found out that teaching was the best way that I learned. And so then it just kind of came together. And then I was like, wait, I kind of can do this, and I really enjoyed it. And so then I decided to do science communication.
Michael, I just feel like anything we're going to do is a failure at this point. Like,
oh yeah, that's why. Like, you'll see when I go to my 10 minutes.
I've never been more intimidated going into my 10 minutes.
I'm just like a 26-year-old like elder emo. You don't have to be intimidated by me.
Sometimes that's the interesting thing with this one, now that we've moved into having people who actually know about subjects, and we're like, let me tell you about this thing that you know a lot about. Now, as somebody who, I work in entertainment, like there are very few octopuses at the Netflix studios in Brooklyn. Well, speaking of our little presentations, which one of us would you like to go first? Now that you've gotten to know us oh so well.
Oh my God. Why is this so hard? I don't know.
It's because if you don't, because Ryan will be devastated.
We engineer this tension into the...
It's like having to pick a favorite child. Like,
But a child you've known for 10 minutes. So talk about like...
I've laughed with you. You are essentially kin. Okay. I think I'm going to go with Ryan.
Okay. Your time starts now.
Okay. So I thought the first thing I would start with is we made this mistake at the end, and I made the mistake of it's emphatically octopuses and not octopi, and I was going to explain why. So octopus, its origin is Greek, and it's only Latin words that end in US that you add an I to. So technically, the appropriate, if you were going to take the Greek pronunciation of the word or the Greek origin of the word and make it plural, I have to look at this, octopodes.
Octopodes.
Octopodes?
Octopodes. Which leads to the best joke ever, which is Octopodes nuts. That's how you can remember it. It's Octopodes.
Oh, God. The episode's over. Meg, you won. I'd never heard Octopodes. That is so cool.
By the way, I know it's going to make the socials next week.
I had never heard that joke until I went onto Science Friday, and somebody came back to me in my DMs and was like, oh, like, I'm so glad you talked about the correct plural of octopus. And just so you know, like, you can always remember octopodes because octopodes nuts. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm so mad I didn't think of that first.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Well, now I just kind of have like, I think kind of fun facts. And I actually, I'll get to it, but I ended up kind of focusing on chromatophores on the octopuses because I thought it was on the octopodes.
Nuts.
A whole bunch of fun facts. They have 9 brains, so 1 main and then 1 in each tentacle, and they all operate independently of each other, but check in with each other. So, like, for example, that's why 1 tentacle or 2 tentacles could be working on unscrewing a jar while the rest of the body is completely asleep, which I thought was kind of cool.
Can I tell you a horribly scientific, pedantic thing?
Please.
It's not tentacle. It's arm.
It is
arm. Yeah. Octopuses
What's
don't
the
have
difference
tentacles.
between an arm and a tentacle?
So the difference is that an arm is going to have 1 to 2 rows of suckers from like the base to the tip. Whereas a tentacle is going to be like a long stringy sort of filament that at the end has like a club foot and then a cluster of suckers at the end. So squid and cuttlefish only have tentacles and they're retractable. So a lot of times they hold them in and then they shoot them out to catch their prey. But octopuses only have arms.
Oh,
It's a thing I don't correct people a lot about because it feels very like nerdy to be like, well, actually.
No, I think that's a good to know.
In fact, I think you should slap them whenever you say it. You're like, I just used my arm to hit you, much like an octopus would do.
No, the New York Times wrote an article about octopuses that I was like very beautifully in. But they interviewed like 3 other octopus experts and still named their article 408 tentacles. And we were all like cringing.
You know, the Times has gone downhill.
For real.
Get out of here.
Let's see. I was going to talk about their eyes and how the fact that our eyes are very similar to their eyes, with the exception of the fact that our optic nerves go through our retina while theirs attach in the back. And I didn't know this. So our eyes like optically eliminate or Photoshop out that loss, like our brains fix that lost sight. Whereas they don't have to edit out anything. They actually get the full span of vision and apparently have the ability to see polarization, which allows them to see angular light, which is I thought was kind of cool.
And they also have like no blind spot. So because of that, they can see like 360 degrees.
And they can process all of it?
Yeah.
Like their brains can take it all in.
And it's all like camera-like image. Like it's like really detailed. And so not only are they seeing like all the things you're seeing in 360 degrees, but like they're also seeing the polarized light, which we can't see, which gives them even more information.
Wait, what do you mean by they can see polarized light? Like, Ryan, when you say that, what?
So it's polarization happens when you filter light in a certain way. And like, if you ever notice when you wear polarized sunglasses, you ever notice how you turn a computer screen and you can no longer see it? And it's because it's filtering out given waves. So in other words, think about it as another dimension for which you can see light. So in other words, as light is traveling through in different directions, there's going to be some of the light that travels in and gets faded out because of the polarization, where other pieces will fade in. So in other words, you're getting a whole nother dimension or depth, if you will, of light because of that polarization, because there's things that aren't being polarized versus things that are.
I also like to think of it as like, if you've ever been fishing and have like polarized sunglasses fishing. So if you look at a stream without those sunglasses, you get that glare and you can't really see the water. But with the polarized sunglasses, that glare is eliminated and you can see all the fish in the water.
Okay, because I feel like I've always bought polarized sunglasses because I was like, I don't know, otherwise I'll go
They
blind.
look cool.
But never really thought to know like why.
Yeah, it eliminates a lot of glare.
It was more just like, abject,
Yeah.
like self-preservation, because I was like, I want to, I don't know, they say I'm supposed to do this. But also, to be fair, I always buy my sunglasses from a vendor on the street for like $4. So
That's the best way to buy sunglasses.
I know, right?
All the cool kids wear polarized glasses. So,
Mhm.
so I'll talk a little bit about chromatophores. So I was totally intrigued by the fact that they can change, mimic colors, mimic their surroundings, and they do it almost, well, some take longer than others, but there are certain ones that can do it within milliseconds.
Yeah,
And
so like, they
decided
can do it faster than you can blink your eye.
it's
Wow.
insane.
Mm-hmm.
So these teeny little color sacs, they're balloon-like filled with pigment, and they're yellow. They tend to be filled with yellow, red, orange, black, or brown. And they're neuromuscular. So each little sac is surrounded by teeny-ass little muscles that I think the best way to describe it is each one is like a pixel. Like, so right now as we're looking at the screen, a microprocessor is changing the pixels on the screen to manipulate what we're seeing. Well, octopuses do that, and they do it with every single one of these little things. And what they do is when they want it to express the color, they flex the muscle and it causes the sac to protrude, producing the color, and then relax it to let it go back in, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. You did that wonderfully, by the way. Great explanation.
Thank you. You've raised the bar. I'm working hard here.
Yeah, I can tell. I love to see it.
Well, and then I was going to say, I think the other cool thing that plays into it. So I was thinking about the fact that part of the reason that they can mimic so many things is that you need a range of colors. So when I first read that, I was like, oh, they only have really red, yellow, orange, black, and brown, but they also have
Iridophores?
Yes.
Iridophores.
Which give access to blue and green shades at the same time. So all this, and purple. So now you have this full spectrum of light, if you will, that they can basically manipulate across their bodies, which allows them to incredibly kind of manipulate it. And then leucophores. I actually wanted to read more about them because they apparently scatter light equally, which I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what's behind that. But
it's a bunch of little proteins, I believe, that reflect light. So I think they're called reflectors.
So like little mirrors.
Yeah, like little mirrors. So if you get any like white in there, the leucophores are responsible for the white. And then you kind of get that shimmery effect with the leucophores and then the iridophores, and they're all kind of layered on top of each other. And that's how you get those really cool displays of color.
Yeah, and they said almost like it also creates that like 3D effect or
yeah, because they're all layered.
Those stickers you can look at, like almost holographic. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, which I thought was.
We're on the same brainwave.
I want to be on your brainwave. I am trying.
You're on my brainwave right now.
Well, and that's it. That's my 10.
That was your 10 minutes.
I was gonna say I had some I've looked up. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to do it, so I had some other stuff on like famous octopuses.
Wait, real quick, who are some of the famous octopuses?
Paul, I think his name is. Who he
Paul was my first one.
Yeah, he predicted the World Cup or a few games in the World Cup consecutively before he died. 8
consecutives.
Yeah.
Wow.
And actually he predicted the right outcomes for Germany. He was a German octopus. Actually, the two of the octopuses that I have are both German. There's Otto, who knew how to squirt water to kill the lights that he didn't like shining on him.
Yeah, he shut down the whole aquarium because he short-circuited it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
He liked to juggle hermit crabs, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Oh, I didn't hear that one.
And learned to throw rocks at the glass.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one that I think everyone's heard of is Inky, which is the one he was from, I think it was a he, from the National Aquarium in New Zealand in 2016. He managed to escape his tank and managed to pick the right pipe in the floor to exit the building and basically free himself into the sea.
Good for him. He's fully a Pixar film.
He lives on in history through.
I want this movie.
Yes.
Well, it's essentially Finding Nemo. I mean, I don't know if he ever successfully escapes. It's been a while since.
It's kind of like Octopus meets Shawshank Redemption, really.
Yeah. That's a movie I want to see.
I don't know if I want to see that. That sounds like it's going to get weirdly like sexual, and then I'm going to have more weird octopus gifs in my comments forever.
Oh, yeah,
I'd
that's
like
true.
Not do that.
Well, Michael, you ready?
Sure.
All right, hold on. I got to get my, I'm never ready. Let's get the time. All right. Ready, set, go.
Okay. I have always been fascinated by octopuses. I love them so much. What really did it for me, though, I've always thought they were just kind of cool. But what did it for me was this book, The Soul of an Octopus.
I've never read it, but I've read her other books, and Sai is so great.
Oh, you know her?
A little bit. She is really close friends with Warren, who runs Octo Nation, the world's largest octopus fan club. And he partnered with her on her latest book, which was Secrets of the Octopus, that came out in combination with Nat Geo. So, like, we know of each other.
There were just so many little things in it. Because in the book, she spends a lot of time at the Boston Aquarium, and you basically follow her on the journey of 3 different octopuses and her relationship she develops with them. And it really breaks your heart how short they live. Like, it's only a few years. And part of me that is like, that's the reason they're not the primary. The only reason they haven't like taken over is that they don't live long enough. I feel like once they figure out how to live like 20 years, we're done.
Yeah, but ants have kind of taken over the world, and they don't live that long.
Ants? Oh, that's true. But they're just doing it by population. There's just a lot of them.
Does that not contribute to how much world you have taken over?
That's true. I mean, if you think about it, people are
true.
kind of just like, yeah, that's true. I mean, if you think about us.
We're kind of only thought about as taking over just because we are so many of us.
And we destroy things. I know we're more of like a bacteria. Like, we're just not good.
A plague upon the earth.
Yeah, we are sort of just like a virus on this earth.
You know, to be optimistic, there are things where human and nature interacting. Like, I think it's in like Braiding Sweetgrass where they talk about how humans actually tending to sweetgrass actually made them more productive and better crops. So we weren't a total plague.
Every once in a while, we do some cool stuff.
Yeah, there's a little harmony going on.
Sometimes we try and balance out the plastic.
Far, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this book is really, really lovely. And the things that got me to is how emotionally intelligent they are. I think we all know, or I mean, I actually take that for granted. A lot of people probably don't know just how clever they are as far as like their use of tools, how they can plan, which not that many, almost no invertebrates can, and very few vertebrates can. How I guess there's not many that like will take a tool because they know that they're going to need it in the future, the way like people do, and like
Otters do that.
Otters do, like certain mammals, certain kind of birds, like I know ravens do. But like one example I heard about was how like that famous one of the octopus taking the coconut shell, and it knew because it was going to an area where it knew there was very little protection. And so it needed to, and it expended a lot of energy to carry the shell around.
Yeah, and then you get bipedal locomotion where it
where they run on their little feet, where it like runs on 2 little arms.
No, that's like an actual thing where scientists are like, yeah, 2 octopus arms are actually legs. And
that's
like,
right.
whoa!
Yeah. So it's running on its little like octopus legs, carrying its shell, which must be like exhausting. The poor thing is like, ugh. But it's like, if I don't have this, I'm going to get eaten by a shark, which is not good either. But I love that proves that they understand future consequence and they plan for it. And it's like, there's very few species that do that.
I think if we searched harder, we could find more species.
We probably could.
That.
We just haven't.
Yeah.
But like, whatever. Let's give it to them for the moment. Like, well
biased.
done. But, you know, and how like playful they are with objects, how they can open jars and get into jars. But reading this, also the random fact I learned, how they can fit into anything that's larger than their eyeball.
Yes, I read that too.
Then their beak.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because the beak is the only hard thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so their eyes. So I'm wrong about that. I thought it was their eye.
So their
eyes are still squishy enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that is nuts that they can like squeeze their body into anything large. Oh my God, that's so cool.
It's also like a huge problem in keeping octopuses.
I'm sure. But that's in this book. She talks about one that like kept getting out and it would get into other tanks in the aquarium and like eat the fish that it actually liked and then go back into its own.
Yeah. Our current lab octopus will get into the filter system. So like how we pump water in and out of the tank, he likes to hide in that little pipe. And then we're like, where is he? And then we like lift up the pipe and we're like, oh.
Oh, hey, bro.
How big is he?
He's like this big.
He's just a little guy.
Oh, okay.
Like the size of a softball.
He's a ruby octopus and his name is Carmichael. Or we call him Kerms.
But yeah, this book made me want to have a pet one because she talks about there's one, especially, you're shaking your head, but there's one that, I know some people do get them as pets, but you have to have like a giant tank and like.
Those people have a lot of money and too much time on their hands.
Yeah, that's fair. That's what I want is to have too much money.
A lot of money and a lot of time on your hands. Yeah.
Exactly. Right now I only have the time. What I need is the money. But so she talks about one that I love that it really didn't like one of the interns at the aquarium and it would like purposely ambush him and it could like it figured out very quickly who he was and they couldn't figure out what he did to piss it off, but something about this octopus was just like, I fucking hate you. And it would hide and it was this female octopus, she was a giant Pacific octopus, and she would go and she would hide up at the top so he couldn't see her. And she learned his schedule. So she knew when he was walking past the top of her tank, and then she would squirt him with water. She would like completely like douse this poor man with water to where like he would have to like skirt around the edge to get around her tank because she figured it out. And every time to walk by, she would just like drench him. And there was nothing they could do. They were like, what did you do? And he was like, I don't know. I don't know why she hates me so much.
We had a lab octopus that hated one of our lab members, and he would ink every single time he came into the room. Inked on nobody else, but only when that man came in. And it was a pain because when they ink, you have to get the ink out. And so it was just like, and then he would like get the ink out and then he'd ink at him again. And then it was just like, somebody else needs to come in here.
You wonder like why it was. And I just love how this octopus like literally learned this guy's schedule. It was like, I know that at this time on this day, this guy's going to roll by and I'm going to fucking soak him because it makes him mad.
He probably didn't even like learn the schedule, just like learned the man's face.
Probably. And it just like waited and it was like, I see you coming.
He's like, I see that man and I don't
let me like zip up to my hiding spot. And then it became really attached to her. And she said like it loved like holding her. Like it would love to like she'd put her, it would like reach up and she would put her hand in and it really loved holding her arm and stroking her. That's
how they get a sense of their environment. I mean, their arms are just like giant tongues. So yeah, it was just like tasting her.
But apparently it really liked the taste of her. Yeah. But she said there was something about how they can literally taste emotion because they can tell
the change in chemicals on your skin.
Basically, yeah. She says in the book at least that they can sort of like, because the sensories are so strong that they could tell sort of like where she was. So she was like, one time she came in and she was really stressed out. Something bad had happened to her that day. I don't remember. And then like, I think like her car barked out. She was having a really bad day. And she reached in and it touched her. And she was like, it immediately sensed that something was up. And she's like, I think it had to do with my heart rate. And it found this spot on the inside of her elbow, like in the crook of her arm. And it stroked it. And she looked up later that that's a pressure point. And if you're in distress, if you do touch that spot, it lowers your heart rate. So she was like, somehow this octopus figured out a way to soothe me very quickly. And she was like, I think it somehow picked up that I was upset and it did what it could think of to calm me.
I think that's a little bit of anthropomorphization, a little bit of, making connections in your head that maybe aren't what is actually going on, but it does make a very cute and probably a very warming story to her.
That's why I wanted a pet one. I was like, well, then maybe when I'm having a bad day, I'll just like cuddle my octopus.
And then don't. I mean, most giant Pacific octopuses maybe, but you're not going to have a giant Pacific octopus. You're going to have a different species of octopus, and it's not going to give a single fuck about you.
Yeah, probably.
Why the giant Pacific? Why is that one special?
They're just like a little bit more puppy dog like they're a little bit more interactive, they're a little bit more curious. It could be because of their size, like they are so big, they're the biggest octopus species, that there's less fear of predation from like a human per se, but like the little ones
that live the longest, right?
Yeah, they live about 3 to 5 years, 5 years in captivity, shorter in the wild.
And sorry, I know we're over time, but I learned recently about how they I think and this I think is a parallel to people, how like excuse me, their evolution, how originally they started with shells, like 500 million years ago, whenever they started, they had shells. At some point, they lost the shell. And so they had to become smart
Yeah.
because they have no other defense.
They had no other
And-
defense. Yeah.
But isn't that
exactly.
kind of like people? Like, we're just mushy meat sacks. We don't have good fangs. We don't have claws. We're not fast. We can't breathe underwater. Like, we can't fly. Like, the only thing we have is our brains. And in a way, like, I think they're similar, but they have evolved better than us because their whole body is their brain, basically, right? In a lot of ways. And the fact that, like you said, like each arm can act independently because it has its own layer of neurons and just they're so biologically complex in a way that I think probably supersedes people in a way, considering their
Depends on,
size.
like, your definition, you know?
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
true. I guess as far as like survival goes,
Yeah.
like we can't see 360.
I mean, you do have like cell communication throughout your whole body. That's all that the
That's
octopus
true.
is doing. Is that their communication is like widespread, and like we have that in a lot of ways too. It's just that ours kind of always goes back to our central nervous system, where theirs is, they don't have
more
central nervous
distributed.
system. Yeah, it's decentralized.
But thank you. That's what they made me think of, was just that was when you talk about what got you into them. That's what got me into them. And now now I follow so many octopus accounts. Like I love it. Like I love when I'm just like, or like I love a YouTube rabbit hole about them.
Yeah.
And just like watching videos and oh my God, watching them dream.
Oh,
Is just like,
yeah.
is that true or is that a myth? When they're like asleep and you watch them flashing colors and
So-
textures, is it them dreaming or what do you think that is?
So there's debate over that. There's some scientists who say that, yes, this is dreaming, but there's other scientists who say, we can't be certain that that's what it is because we're kind of still looking at it from our perspective of dream, because we only know dreaming and everything from our perspective. And that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that octopuses are experiencing the same exact thing we are. Like, we don't really have a great way of knowing that. But it does look like they're dreaming.
I don't know if you guys have been reading the news or more about sleep, and sleep's important to us because it's essentially a form of neural cleansing.
Yeah. Your brain does a little rewiring.
Yeah, and I was wondering if like maybe it's actually because their brain is decentralized, it actually is a form of neural cleansing.
It could
anyway,
be. Yeah,
random thought of the moment.
Octopus. Yeah.
That is a good, I hadn't thought about that. Thought about it though. That makes total sense though. Okay, well,
Another
this is
hard
the
part.
part.
Oh, I have to pick who wins.
Yeah. Whatever that means. This was also a unique episode because I feel like both of ours were very much just like, Meg, tell us things. Like, you teach us.
Did I get that right?
Because we both are just like, yeah.
Okay. Well, I will have to say, I think Ryan is the winner.
Nice.
Because I really liked how you explain things, and that you really like took the time to like teach it to yourself and understand sort of these more like complex things that are going on. And I think you did a really great job at like re-explaining that for a general public audience.
I appreciate it. I was channeling you. So
Well done.
No, I like yours too, Michael. Yours was just a very feely take, and
Oh, thank you. Also, this was another rare one, Ryan, where we had similar things because I was going to talk about the camouflage.
Oh,
That was the thing I learned about, was the little color sacks and the 3 layers of skin and how like it's the color sacks and then the reflective and stuff. So it was just, you started going and I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to talk
Damn
about the book.
You had like 2 great, really good perspectives. Like, we covered a lot of ground. We got
Yeah,
like,
no, it worked out beautifully. I am not mad at this at all. And I fully support your decision to choose Ryan. I would have done the same. All right. And so what is our topic for next week?
nudibranchs.
I'm sorry, who?
Nudibranchs. They are sea slugs. What you may love them as, if you look up nudibranch Met Gala looks, and you can find a whole entire spread of nudibranchs that look like people at the Met Gala.
Okay, not to be confused with nude brinks, which is what just came up on my Google, which is not at all. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Nudibranch.
I spelled that completely wrong.
They have like one, dramatic little beings. They are crazy looking. There's so many different types. Two, they battle with their dicks.
Wait, I think I knew that about these. Now that I see what they are, I know what you're talking about.
So they're freaky and they're fabulous. Like, I think it's a great combination.
Oh my God, who doesn't want to be freaky and fabulous at the same
for
time?
real.
Oh my God, I am looking at the Met Gala comparisons and it's kind of insane.
It's kind of insane. It's so good.
Oh wait, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
On your Instagram, which is fabulous, at in.vertibabe, which I love. You did which octopus are you according to your birth month?
I did.
So I'm May. And this is also what I was going to ask if we ran out of time. And you chose a Hawaiian bobtail.
Well, I think it became May because my roommate picked that one.
Okay. Great.
She put a lot more effort into the choices than I did. I was just going to randomize it. And she was like, you can't do this to people. You need to actually pick them. So she picked most of them. But
Okay.
a Hawaiian bobtail it's not a squid or a cuttlefish or an octopus. It's like its own thing entirely.
Ooh.
And so they're more closely related to cuttlefishes, but
Okay.
their own thing. They got the cutest little rump, like a big fat little butt, and then like these huge eyes. And then they like to bury themselves in the sand, and so they'll take two of their arms and like bury themselves. It's the cutest thing ever.
Okay, great. So they have big butts and they love to cuddle. I will take this as my birth month octopus.
Yeah.
What was Feb? Now I have to know. What was Feb?
February was, oh God, because that was my month. I picked it. I don't even
Here,
remember.
I got you. It's a vampire squid.
Yeah. I picked
Wait, and you have a vampire squid dress, as I recall from your...
Yeah, for Halloween this year, I was a vampire squid.
That's cool. Wait, so vampire squid. Tell us a little bit about them real quick.
So the vampire squid is also like its own little thing. So it's not a squid, a cuttlefish, or an octopus. It's like completely separate. Not even like, it's more closely related to octopuses, but one of the hypotheses is that it's actually kind of like sister species to octopus and squid. So like vampire squid came first and then octopus and squid. But the cool thing about them is they live in the oxygen minimum zone in the ocean. So they live in the deep sea, not a lot of oxygen. They therefore don't move around a lot. And so in order to cope with that, they have these modified tentacles that are these little stringy tendrils, filaments, and they catch animal poop and they eat animal poop.
Oh.
I mean, it's not as like slay, but
couldn't
like
be more excited to be a vampire squid now.
what? No. Okay, listen.
I mean,
eat
we
poop,
all can't have a fabulous butt, big bright eyes, and love to sleep.
but they eat.
So-
They're also spooky and goth and unique and adorable.
I am also wearing red right now, and they're red.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're red and black. So
Now
in
that I
California,
Googled
they're
them,
red. Rest
I've
of the
seen a
world
lot
is
of
black.
videos of them, and they are super cool to watch.
They're very
Yes.
cool. I mean, I chose them. They're one of my favorites. I just tend to like, any like weirdo, creepy monster animal out there. I'm like, I love you. Please, you're my favorite. So I chose vampire squid. And also, they always get sent to October. And then February is like some
that's fair.
like love thing or like cutesy thing. And I was like, no, February's my birthday.
I have to ask, what day are you? Just to see.
9th.
I'm the 22nd. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know anything about zodiac.
Close.
Are you still a Pisces?
No, I am an Aquarius.
Yeah, it's Aquarius. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I do know I'm a Aquarius, Scorpio.
Oh, man. Well, I'm so excited to learn more about nudie branches.
Nudibranchs.
Nudibranchs. Thank you.
Nudibranchs.
There's even an entire calendar out there and Instagram you can follow called I Love Nudies. And they put out their yearly nudie calendar.
Uh-huh.
And they even have merch that says like I Love Nudies.
Amazing.
Yeah,
they
it's
must
great.
disappoint so many people.
It's fantastic.
Thank you. And remind people where they can follow you.
Yeah.
I am on all social media as Invertibabe. Instagram, there's just a period in between because somebody took my username before I could snag
Rude.
it.
Bastard.
No, I literally like changed it on all platforms, and then I was like, I'm gonna wait on Instagram, and then next day, someone took it, and I was like, well, damn it. But yeah, you can follow me on all those places, and
good luck with everything with your masters.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I've already defended, so I
Oh.
passed. I'm getting my master's.
Oh, amazing. Great. So,
Congratulations.
so never mind, not good luck. Enjoy coasting and congratulations.
Yes.